Hello everyone. Apologies, it was a technical glitch probably on my end. We are going to talk today about how organizations can protect themselves against doxing attacks. So doxing, it's a very broadly popular used term, and we are going to look a deep dive into how is it done, what are the repercussions, and then how to folks can be more proactive towards protecting themselves against these doxing attacks, right? So before we do a deep dive into the agenda for today's talk, and I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Parul Khanna. I'm based off in Toronto, Canada, and I work as a business unit security officer for an insurance firm which is based in Toronto. Previously, I've had the diverse experience in different domains, varying from incident response to software engineering, as well as cloud security. And I've also done quite a bit of volunteering in terms of a board member for the ISC Square Toronto chapter, events advisory committee member for the ISC Square Security Congress, and then I'm also an active volunteer for the Women in Cybersecurity. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. And we'll be today, for the agenda for today's talk, we'll be taking a look at origin of doxing, essentially understanding what this term means. What is the information that the doxers want, and how can this particular information be used against you? I'll also be taking a deep dive into the doxing methods as well as tools, and then two real world case studies based off on doxing. And in the end, we'll be looking at how to protect against the doxing, how do we recover, and then just a brief food for thought here: is doxing illegal? So we'll be just spending a few minutes before opening the floor for any question and answers from the audience. So, talking about the origin of doxing, essentially, doxing, it's the practice of revealing the personal information about someone, like it could be an employee, an individual, a person, right? Like without their consent. The origins, if we talk about the origins of this word doxing, it emerged in the hacker dictionary in the 1990s, right? Like where anonymity, it was deemed secret, and in most cases, people's real world identities were unknown to their allies as well as to their rivals. So the word has been picked up from the abbreviation docs, which essentially stands for like documents and refers to compiling and releasing a dossier of personal information on someone. So it's like you have different informations pasted across like different documents, and you combine them to get a picture of who the person is, what the person is, and how do you breach that person's privacy. So as simple as that. So this particular word, it came from the it came from the word docs, right? From the docs, right? And that's how it turned into like doxing. Um, Beginning in the early to mid 2000s, the term doxing or doxing, right? Like it could be used with a single X or double X. It became associated with the act of leaking an individual's personal information for retaliations, right? And this was like quite popular, became quite popular. So if we look at the different informations, like what's the different information that usually the doxers want. This could vary from, again, this is not a very comprehensive list, so anything that could actually help the hacker expose the identity of someone, so that particular information, essentially it's personally identifiable information, your real name, your telephone number, your social security number, any like unique identifiers, your home address, employer details, your credit card numbers, bank account numbers, your personal photographs, your social media profiles, your private correspondence, criminal history. So anything related to your personally identifiable information, so that they can gauge who are you, what do you do, and they can attack you or they can expose you, right? So that's the information that the doxers or the hackers, like, they are chasing. Now, how this information can be used against you, essentially, they could spread fake information, fake rumors about you, and which could actually lead to public shaming. They could expose sensitive content about yourself, and this could be as serious as like related to something related to medical history. Definitely, affects the psychological. It affects a person's psychological behavior as well. So that's another consequence of the doxing. And then obviously it can also lead to the reputational harm. Talking about more, like what exactly can doxing lead to? Yes, like trauma, mental illness, your anxiety, your low confidence, right? Like imagine if you have your information out there in the public, which you wouldn't want to expose or which you wouldn't want the public to know about it otherwise. So imagine that, right? And there is a thing that if an information happens to be once on the internet, you cannot ever delete or get rid of that information. So essentially, your it could lead to your anxiety, low confidence, your stress, your sleeping disorders, your low self-esteem, as well as your psychological disorders as well, right? So if we talk about the doxing methods as well as the tools used, again, this is like, if we talk about why is doxing so powerful, so one of the reasons that it's so powerful, it's because there's like majority of attacks, they require very little technical skills and are mostly free. Like there is a vast range of open source intelligence tools which are out there and can be used by doxers, right? And essentially, like these attacks, they have two main components, which is gathering as much data as possible and then creating a web of informations from this particular data to access more sensitive information. So much of this, it can be accomplished through like a combination of your social engineering as well as persistence, right? So if we talk about like all these social media profiles like your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, right? Like even for like Reddit, if your privacy settings for your social media accounts, like these are public, then perhaps anyone who is looking to dox your information, they can find about you by like cyber stalking you, right? They could find out, yeah, they could find your like location, your workplace, the name of your employer, your friends, even like your friends of friends, your family members, whom are you related to, your photos, your likes, dislikes, the places you have visited, the places you have checked in, right? Even the names of your pets, right? And using this information, a doxer can even work the answers to some of your security questions, which would essentially help them to break into your online accounts. So you see, like how this like how do the doxers work, or the strategy or the mindset which with they begin to start collecting the information, they start gathering it, and then they kind of like do a deep dive and get into your accounts and etc., right? Like because they all they need is that particular like sensitive information about yourself. So many doxers, they do scour the social media accounts to find private information about their targets. And not only do people willingly share personal information on these sites, such as your Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, they also provide plenty of key facts about themselves when signing up for these sites. So like that's why it's recommended that you, I mean, as a rule for like best practice, you do not share any of the sensitive content on your social media, right? Because you don't know who out there is looking for you or who out there is planning to dox your information, right? Okay. So this is one of the examples of like doxing in the past, right? Jackson, aged like 27 of Washington, D.C., he was sentenced to 4 years in prison on October 3rd. And what happened was police accused him of stealing Senate's information and posting illegal restricted information of the 5 US senators on the Wikipedia website. So essentially, this guy doxed the US senators and kind of like just published it on a public Wikipedia website. So, and the information that was posted included home addresses, personal telephone numbers. So, yes, doxing can actually result in serious consequences and could actually um, result in imprisonment as well. If we talk about the doxing methods as well as tools, right? So, there are different ways by which your information can be collected, gathered together, and then your information can be analyze to make some sense out of that, right? Like to identify what is the weak link, to identify that what could possibly be something which could tarnish your image or tarnish your reputation. So, for example, again, this is not a very comprehensive list, sifting through the government records, right? Like while most of the personal records they're not available online, there is a fair amount of information that can be, taken from the government websites. So examples for your business licenses, your country records, your marriage licenses, right? Your voter registration logs. So all these contain personal information. The next one, your database aggregators or the data brokers, right? Now, these could generally be classified into one of the four types. For example, your marketing and advertisements, your financial information, your people search, as well as health information, right? So, like anyone who, like any data broker or any data aggregator which is trying to access your personally identifiable information, right? They pass it on to the next data aggregators, and this is how your information gets spread, and that we get all these calls, different calls, knowing that how we have customized our interest and what personalizations do we prefer. I have listed some of the data brokers in the examples here. If we look at the next one, yeah, the domains, like these public domains. So anyone who owns a domain name so has their information stored in a registry, so that is often publicly available. So suppose the person who bought the domain name did not obscure their private information at the purchase time, so in that case the personally identifiable information, it's available online for anyone to find, right? And then you have your general search engines, right, like Google, Bing, and Yahoo. So if you have publicly posted your images at any point anywhere, right, they usually get to like even a simple name search of your name in any of these like search engines can yield your image, and then they can further start doxing or connecting the dots related to, okay, who you are, and then where do you work, and then so on and so forth, right? So these are again some of the examples of the hyperlinks which are actually used to search the user profiles. And in the next deck, I do have a screenshot of like how do these like one of these work. But again, there is like this is not a comprehensive list. There is like a huge number of other hyperlinks which can essentially be used to search your user profiles, and then they can link it with another user profiles so that the doxer has plenty of information about yourself, about your personally identifiable information. This is one of the examples, like check usernames, right? Again, you can see that it's got all your social media websites, SlideShare, anything related to like music websites as well. So it actually does a username search across all these different social media, let's call your social media websites, and then kind of like just combines, aggregates, and makes a meaningful information out of these, right? Talking about the open source intelligence tools. So open source intelligence is any information that can legally be obtained about an individual from the internet, and because no crime has been conducted in gathering the information, because the information is factual, assuming the victim has been correctly identified, many forms of doxing are considered as not illegal, right? So for example, there is like different open source intelligence tools, like for example, Maltego, your Shodan, your Google Docs, Harvester, MetaGoofle, as well as ReckonNG. Again, not a very comprehensive list. I did a research paper. I did a research publications on like how this particular tool Maltego works, and it's actually it's kind of like a tool which has been written in Python. It's got different modules to it, and you can actually customize and personalize the tool as per your needs, like how deep do you want to go? So there is like level one, layer one, which is essentially like identifying the individual. Now, whom this individual is connected to, that comes as part of your layer two, right? Like which is taking it to the next step. Again, how this individual is related to like the third layer is more deep dive, where you identify more further connections or the sub connections, right? So it goes like the very into like deep, and it gives you a complete, very robust and comprehensive chart, which means that if you are targeting one individual, it shows you all the different individuals which are linked to that particular individual, and then you can find out, okay, whom do you attack, or who is the easiest person to attack to get to that particular information. I think this is one of the common methods that is adopted. Let's just say if we are trying to dox someone within an organization, you just have to identify the weakest link, right? Like from all the people that's working there, and then get into the network using the personally using the sensitive information or the PII of that particular employee or individual. Reverse image search, TinEye. So this is another one. TinEye is used to perform an image-related search on the web and has various products like TinEye Alert System, Color Search API, as well as Mobile Engine. So you can literally search if your image has appeared anywhere like online using this particular portal. It uses natural networks, machine learning, and pattern recognition to get the results. And it uses image matching, watermark identification, signature matching, and various other parameters to match the image rather than the keyword matching. The website offers API extensions and browser extensions as well. And you can simply visit the image and right click on it to select the search on TinEye. You just pasted like a few sample screenshots from this particular website, like how the image search works actually. Packet sniffing. So this isn't the only way where people can crack your online anonymity. Experienced hackers can rely on technology to glean clues about your identity, and they might turn to a strategy which is known as like packet sniffing. And in this method, a doxer intercepts your internet data, looking for everything from your passwords, your credit card numbers, and your bank account information to your old email messages. So doxers, they accomplish this by connecting to an online network and then cracking its security measures and then snagging the data flowing into and out of the network, right? So this is how we kind of like do the packet sniffing. If we talk about the tools, different tools, again, this is not a comprehensive. Your Wireshark, your SolarWinds, your TCP dump, your WinDump, all these tools can be used essentially for like packet sniffing, and pretty some of them they've even got like free trial versions or like free licenses as well. Reverse cell phone lookup. So let's just think it out aloud. Like if someone has your cell phone numbers, so what exactly can they do, right? I mean, thanks to like pages like your white pages, right? So these like reverse phone lookup services, they let you type in like a cell phone number or any other telephone number to find out the identity of the person who actually owns the number, and then you kind of do a deep dive on their identity or on their search, right? But it's just not your name that people can discover from such a service, right? Like a search on the white page, it can also turn up your current as well as your previous addresses, right? Or any of the addresses that you were linked to. So hackers, they can use a reverse phone lookup to search your criminal and traffic records, your financial records, and your properties that you own or probably would have owned in the past, right? And then these sites, such as your white pages, they charge fees to provide anything beyond the city and state associated with a cell phone number. So those who are willing to pay up through, they can clean plenty of personal information about you from your cell phone numbers. So be careful with this. Like, do not leave your cell phone numbers on your social media websites or on public forums or like on the different message boards, right? So, talking about how essentially does like doxing works, right? There's like a few ways in which this particular like doxing. So one of them is like tracking usernames. So many people they use the same username across the different social media profiles that they have, right? So this allows your potential doxers to build a picture of the target's interest and how they spend time on the internet, right? Like using their common username. So it's one of the most common methods, I would say. Phishing is another method, which is essentially like if the person uses an insecure email account or fall victims to like a phishing scam, then the hacker can uncover sensitive emails and then post them online. Tracking of the IP addresses, they can use various methods to discover your IP addresses, so which is linked to your physical locations. And once they know about it, they can then use these social engineering tricks on your internet service provider to discover more information about you. For example, they can file complaints about on the owner of the of the IP address or attempt to hack into the network. Right. Reverse mobile phone lookup. Again, this is very similar. Like once the hackers know your mobile numbers, they can go to the white pages and grab information about your name, your identity, your previous, your current address, etc. Right? Packet sniffing, we talked about this and the different tools that can be used, and then data brokers or the data aggregators, right? Which can gather the information from publicly available records, your loyalty cards, your online search histories, and from other data brokers, right? And interestingly, like many of these data brokers, they sell this information to the advertisers, but several people search sites offer comprehensive records about individuals for relatively small amounts of money. So all a doxer has to do is to pay the small fee to obtain enough information to actually dox someone. So let's just quickly glance to like two of the case studies. So one of them was related to Ashley Madison, which was happened in 2014, and it really became a big issue. So this Ashley Madison, it was an online dating site that catered towards people interested in dating outside of their committed relationships, right? So a hacker group, they made demands on the management behind Ashley Madison, and then when those demands were not met, the group released sensitive user data, doxing millions of people in the process and causing humiliation, embarrassment, and potential for harm to both personal as well as professional reputations, right? So yeah, it was approximately like this particular dating website had like 37.6 million were uh, folks impacted or affected worldwide, right? And I've given the screenshot of like what exactly went after this particular website was like doxed, and they group leaked more than like 60 gigabytes of data on the BitTorrent, right? And the link to access it was posted on the dark web. So these are the kind of like repercussions of like doxing. And what exactly transpired was like this is interesting. This particular screenshot, right? Which actually says, yeah, that Everett Life Media, they have failed to take down Ashley Madison and established, and we have explained the fraud, deceit, and stupidity, and the members, not everyone gets to see their data. So this is what like the doxers posted, and yeah, that was they took the company like millions to settle this, and the reputational damage that comes along with it, along with like business harm to the business reputation, right? Again, some more examples related to the real world risks of doxing. Um, yeah, in December 2017, such an incident, it led to the death of Andrew Finch from cancer. So yeah, I've just put these so that if someone is more interested to know about like how some of these doxing attacks have led to like serious repercussions in the past, they can just read about like or read about this, right? Right. So talking about how to protect yourself from doxing, right? Again, we need to have a good cybersecurity posture as well as a good awareness about the cybersecurity best practices, right? And it's just not like following either like one or the other, but it has to be a combination of all these in order to be more proactive towards protecting our data from getting exposed on the internet. So how do we protect ourselves from the doxing? So protecting your IP address by using a VPN or virtual private network, it offers excellent protection against exposing your IP address, as it takes the user's internet traffic, encrypts it, and sends it through one of the service servers before heading out to the public internet, allowing you to browse the internet anonymously, right? Using strong passwords, definitely a strong password. It normally includes a combination of your uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols, right? So avoid using the same password for multiple accounts and make sure that you change your passwords regularly. And if you have problems remembering your passwords, try using a password manager. Using separate usernames for different platforms, just in case if your one particular social media account gets doxed, it does not relate it directly, it does not give the visibility to the doxer directly to your other social media accounts which are using the same username. So it's advisable that you use different usernames for different platforms, right? Then review and maximize your privacy settings on social media. Again, this is an important one. You definitely want to make sure that you are posting, that whatever you are posting is not out there in the public. Like for example, if someone is not in your friend list, they are not able to see your data or get a picture of who you are, right? So this is like these privacy settings on social media, they are out there, they're meant for a reason. So yeah, just scroll through yours to see, okay, what do I have out there. Multi-factor authentication is definitely preferred, which means that yes, using a combination of either your passwords, your biometrics. So for example, it could be your token, or it could be like something like a text message to your cell phone, right? So using multi-factor authentication and then just being alert of the phishing emails, like knowing that, okay, not clicking on anything that comes in your email, and being mindful of your phishing emails. So if we talk about how do we protect yourself, yeah, from the doxing, again, scrubbing your data. So this is essentially like getting rid of the data when it's no longer needed. So this is an important one. Certain informations should never be shared. So like certain pieces of information such as your social security number, your home addresses, your licenses numbers, or any information regarding your bank accounts, credit card numbers, like these should not be shared anywhere, irrespective of the media or irrespective of the communication channel, right? So hackers could intercept the email messages and then get access to this sensitive information. Use more than one email address, so you can boost your privacy by creating separate email accounts for different types of correspondence. Obviously, like, yeah, a few people do that. For instance, you can create like one account that you use only to sign up for streaming services, music sites, forums, message boards, and the other services. Don't overshare. Yes, this is clearly one of the main ones, right? Like, don't overshare on your social media or online forums and message boards, right? Like, sharing personal information could easily give doxers too much to work with. Don't provide your personal information. So when signing up for social media platforms, don't provide personal information such as your date of birth, high school, your employer information. And then don't use the login with Facebook, Google buttons, right? Because because what happens in the backend is when you do that, you automatically give the website information attached to your Facebook, Google account, such as your current city, your job, your phone number, your native language, your family info, as well as more information, right? So it's not convenient, but by introducing your data manually, you can control the type of information the website has about you. So it's critical that you follow these like best practices. And again, this is not like a comprehensive list, in order to ensure that your data is not out there in the public waiting to be doxed. So talking about how to assess your risk of being doxed, the simplest of them is you just type your name into like any of these search engines, right? And you would be surprised at the level of personal information that could be instantly available just by searching your name in the Google, right? Details about your personal life, like where you studied, the employer you work for, like what's your job title, all these things are easily available, right? Just because we have not taken into consideration the privacy settings of our social media while posting this information. Search your domain name. Again, the open source intelligence tools that we talked about. You can just use, search your domain name in there to get plenty of information as well. Privacy settings, the level of disclosure in your social media accounts. So that's another way to say, okay, how much of my sensitive information is out there in the public, and check if third parties can sniff your network traffic. So which is quite important. It's important to know like which of the data aggregators or the data brokers is kind of like accessing your information, and to whom they're passing this information, and how that particular information is being used. And then reverse search your mobile number, which is quite like easy. You just go and type in your mobile number, and it kind of like gives you your name, your addresses, as well as then all you have to do is use another open source intelligence tools to kind of like find about the your related connections, right? Like your financial, your records, your etc. Like all the other details about you. So if we talk about recovery from the doxing attacks, right? Like how do I recover if I have been doxed? Like what do you do if you have been doxed? So there are some steps you can take to limit the damage. The first of it essentially is to report it. Report the attack to the platforms on which your personal information has been posted. So this is definitely so that you can take it down, right? Like almost all the platforms, they have this ability. Involve law enforcement. So if a doxer makes personal threats against you, yes, that is absolutely illegal, and then you should contact your local police department, right? Like if there are threats being issued and you know that someone has doxed your information. Document what's happened. Take screenshots or download pages on which your information has been posted, and this can help the law enforcement or the other agencies that you're dealing with to investigate further, right? Get to the root cause. Protect your financial accounts, because that is usually the first thing that the doxers, after gaining access to your sensitive data, look for. So if doxers have published your bank accounts or your credit card numbers, report this immediately to your financial institutions, right? Your credit card provider, they will likely cancel your card and or perhaps like send you a new one. So you will also need to change the passwords for your online bank as well as credit accounts. Increase your privacy settings. So configure the privacy settings on your social media profiles to the most private options to help keep the doxers away. Again, some of the methods of how to recover from the doxing attacks. So um again, continuing just a small discussion on this, like if this is particular, like much of the conduct that is considered doxing, it may fall under multiple state laws relating to cyber stalking, harassment, threats, or extortion, right? So it is a debate if like doxing is legal, illegal, but legal doxing is illegal if the information is obtained through illegal means, such as like hacking, right? And especially if that information is being used to issue threats against you, yes, that is like a big no-no, right? And one of the most common methods that a hacker will use is by obtaining the target's email. So once obtained, the victim's email provides the hackers with an avenue to uncover passwords and retrieve more personal information. Posting like publicly available information may also give rise to civil lawsuits and criminal charges such as your harassment, intimidation, invasion of privacy, as well as stalking, right? So the intent of the doxer may not matter. This means that the individuals who share the doxer's post may also find themselves in a serious legal trouble. So if we talk about takeaways as part of like this presentation, okay, and I'll just spare the last few minutes for the audience to just take up some questions from them. The doxing, yes, it can have serious short and long term consequences for both the victim as well as the doxer. So if your information is out there in the internet, um, it is it has chances of being like doxed using some of the sophisticated techniques, right? And once doxed, the doxing victims, they often experience like emotional trauma, fear, depression, humiliation. I mean, there could be financial, reputational damage, right? And then doxers then share the victim's information. It could result in criminal charges as well as civil lawsuits. So, doxing could also be initiated by employees during the course of their employment, right? For example, an employee who's responsible for the company's social media account. So, companies may wish to educate the employee on the issue of doxing, for example, by employing a written policy standards to safeguard against legal liability. So, consider it like a fact of fiction that doxing someone can get you arrested, and we have taken up some case studies to look through that, right? Like this is a known fact. Some of the references which have been used as part of creating this deck, again, more than happy. These cover some of the real life case scenarios as well as some of the methodologies which are used actively towards like how do we dox information, how do we, you know, get access to personally identifiable information. So I'll just open the floor to see if there's any questions from the audience. Okay, so let me just take a look at the chat. Yeah, don't taunt the hackers and make people. Okay, I see a comment in the chat. Don't taunt the hackers and make people feel not smart by leaning into your ego and bragging. People will find a way to show you up, and it brings harms to the others not involved. Yes, that's absolutely right, Rhea. Um, okay, I just saw a question from Melissa. Thanks for the question. Any clues on things to try in order to tell if your data was stolen? Yeah, that's a good question. Illegally or from a breach versus sold by data brokers, such as connected to a home sale, etc. And how to know what kind of recourse to try get your data to stop coming up in search. Yeah, it's a good point, good question. So let's say like personally, just again, there are like today the advance of internet is such that everything is so much interconnected, right? Like there is no particular if I have, I'll just take one example. If I have to put my address on the internet at any point of time, yes, it is connected, like everything is connected, and it's going to be visible to public at some point of time, right? Because that's the vastness, or that's the hugeness of the internet. So a simple way to know if your personally identifiable information is out there is just to make a search. Like that would be the easiest to see if it's out there. Again, if you do find your information posted and you don't think it's appropriate, I would be like contact those particular the report report it on that particular website or the forum on which it is posted to have it taken down, right? Like this is part of your due diligence that yeah, the information should be deleted, taken down asap, so that yes, it's no longer visible in there, right? And again, I think in terms of like following the best practices, what it comes to is like never to post any of your PII information onto the social media, because that is not needed. And this includes your social insurance number, your phone numbers, your other PII details, right? Um, yes, that's right. Yes, have I been pawned? Like these websites, again, these they browse through like different of your websites, your search portals, your social media websites. So again, this is thanks me. This is like one of the good websites where you can just do a quick search and see, okay, if they're like if my information or if my PII information is out there in the public waiting to be exploited or not, right? So yeah, there's like a few search engines about it, but the best way I would like if I was to do it, if I was to search if I have been doxed or not, would be just to see like if my personal data is out there by making just a simple mere Google search, right? Yeah, it's a great question. Yep, do not share your personal information online. Adopt a strong password policy and use multi-factor authentications. Yes, thanks, Zokia. Yes, these are like essentially your best practices you would want to adhere to, like having a sufficient having a sufficient amount of like security knowledge and following the best practices, which could be as simple as like not writing your passwords, like having some complex passwords and not having the same passwords across all your social media profiles, so that if it's one gets hacked, yes, you know that there is a chance that all the others accounts are in jeopardy too. So just like following the best practices. Yes, your password managers are like Good. Sorry. I just saw like there are questions in the Q&A. Um, yeah, just don't know where actually to find those. Yeah, the Q&A. Yeah, if you can just put them like in this chat, I would be more than happy to take those up because I don't see it on my screen. Probably something on my end because I was having issues earlier. But yeah, like following the best practices, multi-factor authentications, like these are your yeah, go-to when it comes to okay, being proactive and being due diligence to protect your personally identifiable information. Yeah. And then a recent term which is quite actively used is something called as like political doxing. Again, not going to do a deep dive into it, but this is what it has come down to. Like yeah, like using all the sophisticated techniques, using like the doxers with the advanced intentions and especially like advanced pertinent threats. Doxing has really like evolved, right? And it could actually lead to more of your serious repercussions. Um, okay. Yeah, that's a good question. What do you think is going to be the future of passwords? Yeah, honestly, with all these quantum computing and everything like so much evolving. In personal, like my personal opinion is that sooner or later, maybe like not we're not talking about like a decade from now, but probably like more than that. Yes, I think that there is going to be more scrutiny and more factors of authentications that would be eventually helpful to protect our accounts from getting hacked, because irrespective of how complex a password is, quantum computing is like growing exponentially. I mean, it takes like probably what used to take like years to crack a simple password is now taking like probably like a day or 2 day or even like maybe a couple of weeks to crack it, right? So apparently just using passwords or using like one factor of authentication, it's not recommended, and I think it's going to like multi-factor authentication is definitely going to is one of the way to say okay, like we do have two forms of authentication, at least two forms of authentication to protect, from our accounts getting breached or accounts getting hacked. Okay. um yeah, great questions, and I know that we are almost hitting the time here, so just going to take one more. uh is the is it an advantage to pursue 2701 alongside 27,001 versus going for 27,000 fund first and building this on top of that? Yeah, because all these like standards, I mean, one is related to requirements, the another one is related to guidelines as well as the best practices, and the third one provides an overview. So I would say yes, because all these kind of like work in collaboration with each other, right? Like if you have the requirements, you definitely want to have the best practices as well as the guidelines to implement those. So I mean, usually it's a blend of like all these three. Need not be like all you have to take, need not be like you have to take all of them, but it could be just like whatever is perfect fit, whatever is deemed perfect fit or suitable for your organization that you particularly have to take, right? Yeah, great questions. Thanks, Kelly. Um, Okay, so yeah, once again, apologies for having the technical glitch, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'll make space for the another speaker. So yeah, thank you so much, and feel free to reach out to me either like on LinkedIn or yeah, like just if you have any further questions on the content of this deck, or if you want any further clarifications, I'm more than happy to answer any follow-up questions there. Thank you so much.